Hi everyone, it's Michael Citron with the Citron Real Estate Group. This is our Ask Michael Monday. I'm pleased to have Sharon Aron Baron here with Talk Media, and she is the owner and online publications of the Parkland Talk and Coral Springs Talk. So we see her all the time online.
And Tamarac Talk.
Oh, Tamarac Talk. I'm sorry. So those are great publications that give a lot of information. We all use it as a really reliable source. I'm happy you came on to Ask Michael Monday. I think you have a lot of insight on what's going on in our cities. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your background, either companies and in journalism.
Okay. Thank you so much for inviting me today.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
And it's nice to finally meet you. I see your face on all my junk mail.
Okay.
I like to look at the houses in there.
Appreciate it.
So I have a journalism degree from Texas State University, and I, like many people, didn't do anything with it. Going into journalism does not pay well. So I put that on hold. I got into sales for many years. I worked for a lot of corporations, one of them Pitney Bowes. So I was in sales. And then once I had my children, I started to get into neighborhood websites. And I managed one in Davie for our neighborhood. And I was the moderator for one. And then we moved to Tamarac, and I noticed when I lived in Tamarac, I lived in the Woodlands Country Club.
Okay.
The development did not have a community website. And this was like less than 10 years ago, and
okay.
All communities had websites. So I created one for the residents, and I wrote news for it. So it was in the Woodlands, and I continue to manage that. It's a very small one that I still do. And so I started doing news in that area, and it was very popular, and it still is. And then I decided to move into doing news in Tamarac. And the reason why I started doing news in Tamarac was back in 2011, a couple people in Tamarac got arrested. And I don't know if you remember that, but the mayor was arrested for back then, and one of our city commissioners, Patty Atkins grad, was arrested for allegedly taking bribes. One of them being a BMW and one of them being a party. So we had a lot going on in Tamarac, and I had a lot to write about. So I got into that to cover those events, but I was more of an activist then.
Okay. So
I really wrote back then to make change in the community. So I got into that we had a lot of problems in the city. One of them is all our parks were closed on every Monday. So I wrote about that, and finally the city relented. They opened our parks on Mondays. I mean, we're talking everything was closed, even the dog park.
Wow.
So we finally got that opened. Our meetings were not being streamed live.
Okay.
So I would go in front of the commission and ask them to stream our meetings live, get cameras like Coral Springs did in other cities. And after a while, and I write about it, and finally they did. So, having the outlet of the online publication got people interested in what I was doing, and they got the ball rolling as well. So we got a lot of things done in Tamarac, including a panhandling ban.
Okay.
We got rid of the Sunday blues laws. I don't know if you remember Sunday blues laws. When you couldn't buy beer and wine on Sundays. Do you remember that?
Really? I don't drink. So.
Oh, okay.
I'm probably a little too young. I don't know.
Well, I wrote about that consistently, and finally we eventually got rid of that through some pressure with the city commission. Great. They were one of the last cities. So
you've done a lot, but when we see your articles, I think people, especially in Parkland and Coral Springs, where we're familiar most with you, is that people are engaged with your articles because it's authentic. It's a little different than the mainstream, and we'll get into that. And that's why I think a lot of people are attracted to what you write. I myself was, I minored in journalism in college and was the editor of our Nova Southeastern newspaper, or associate editor. Oh, nice. And I enjoyed it. So I feel like I write every day, and I like doing these things because so to have a person in this business, it's I appreciate it. So what made you want to start your own independent online publications? Because you have multiple ones in multiple cities, and are you going to advance into other cities as well?
Yeah, no, this was gradual. Beginning with Tamarac. I forgot to mention, in Tamarac, I was also involved with a big recall, and that made big news in Broward County. I was part of a bipartisan effort to recall a sitting city commissioner, the one who was arrested for corruption.
Okay.
She was reseated again. So we actually got a sitting commissioner recalled from office through online petitions, getting signatures. And so Tamarac Talk was doing so well. My husband said, why don't you do Coral Springs Talk? I didn't even live in Coral Springs. We just went there a lot for everything.
Sure.
So I started with Coral Springs Talk, just started writing local news, understanding what their the police presence, the crime, going to city commission meetings was very important. So that took off really well. It was slow and steady. And so Coral Springs Talk is like one of my most popular online publications. And so then I found out we were moving to Parkland, and everybody said, oh, you're going to definitely do a Parkland Talk now. You're going to do a Parkland Talk now. So I said, okay, I'll do a Parkland Talk because this will be easy, right? Well, I started Parkland Talk, I guess, April of 2017.
Okay.
Real easy website. Did some light crime, car break-ins,
Sure.
People didn't lock their doors.
Sure.
Focused on the captain. Lots of school news. I always covered the schools.
I think that's why people like it so much.
Yeah, and then February 14th happened. And this gig became really seriously hard. And Parkland Talk has become more than a full-time job.
I see that. Certainly it's changed everything. And I see you're on multimedia outlets now with your articles and what you've kind of exposed a lot of. So we'll get into that. Over the years, you've become an expert in the areas that you've done your publications. How do you feel about being a staple of information for the community with accurate and non-biased information?
Well, first of all, I hope I'm not, and I know I'm not, everybody's only staple for information, and I don't want that. I just want to be something that people do go to for information. But I hope people out there, I know people are not subscribing to the newspaper anymore and actually getting a physical paper. And I hope people are still reading, CBS Online, CNN, Washington Post, all the major publications. And I hope, because I'm super local, I hope people are continuing to read me as a source. It's hard to remain unbiased. Tamarac Talk in the early days, was very biased. We wanted a lot of things done. And I would put all my articles under the opinion tag,
Sure.
Under views, because my whole thing is we are news and views.
Sure.
And so if I'm going to write an opinion piece, I make sure it's marked opinion. So, but to be unbiased, that's hard. There's a lot of checks and balances in it, and I have to keep my opinions out, and I'm pretty good at doing that. Yeah,
I mean, obviously with the Parkland issue, everything was changed on Valentine's Day. What I like to do is talk about safety. It's kind of what I think everybody living in the city should be talking about, whatever political views you have. In regards to the Parkland school safety, what are your thoughts on improving safety in the schools by the experts you have interviewed in the past 4 months?
Wow. Okay. I've interviewed a lot of people on safety. I am not a safety expert. I'm just a writer. I do see great things happening though with the Secure Our Schools organization in Parkland. I really think that they are a model right now. They are non-political. They are really making some strides, getting donations. They're going to be making the Parkland schools safe. These schools are going to be a model for all of Broward County. And people are saying, why can't all our schools be safe? You got to start somewhere.
It's true.
And then the superintendent will see what's going on here, and then they'll, find the money for the other schools. But it's got to start somewhere, and these schools are going to be models for the rest of the schools. So I think Secure Schools is an excellent organization. But let's not ignore the fact that there's a real elephant in the room, and that is gun safety. I mean, there was a kid with an AR-15 that came into a school. What was he, 18?
He was 19.
And you cannot deny the fact You know, you can say, oh, well, guns don't kill, people kill, whatever. But this is a semi-automatic weapon that did so much physical damage to these kids that a regular gunshot, they might have survived. So we got to, this is why I respect the March for Our Lives kids so much. And a lot of people they disagree with them, what they're doing. I get a lot of hell about, all of those kids, and they think they're funded by Soros, and they're puppets, and, they're fed their lines. And when they first came out, they said they were crisis actors. It's absolutely not true. These kids should be respected. They're going to make changes, and they're going to get kids to vote. And
I think it's going to change a lot of things, and I do agree with you that we need to use Parkland as the example. As you've heard a lot of people, we got to fix it, and I think it starts in Parkland. So whatever political views, I'm nervous about the kids going back to school, in August. I feel that things have to be done on a local, state, and national level for safety first. And Andrew Pollock, he goes to the gym at CrossFit with us. We just did his workout, WOD for Meadow. We did a few weeks ago, and he and Fred Guttenberg, whatever areas that they're focused on gun control. I think the school safety is something we need to start and agree on, because all your kids are going there next year, and we're eventually going to have kids going from elementary, middle into Stoneman for high school. If the schools aren't safe, I think everybody is going to agree that they need to be changed. There's so many things that need to be put on the table to fix schools.
And that's why, it's so important right now. People are just angry. They want change, and what they're doing is they're getting people to run for school board. Yeah. And there's going to be a whole new school board probably next fall.
And you know what? Things as crazy as this happened, I wish it never did, but it happened in Parkland. Let's make a change. And I think by happening in our city, it's grown, that made the city, obviously internationally known, but I think for the right reasons in the future, it will take place. And I think, already the law is being changed so quickly by our officials, with the laws being passed by our governor. It's already made a change, and I'm hoping that it will catapult into something happening for this school season. I would love to see them do more before the school starts again. So I'm sure you're going to write a lot about it, and I look forward to reading it. Why should somebody rely on your online publication for their ultimate resource for Coral Springs, Tamarac, and Parkland news stories? I know you said earlier about people should still subscribe and watch the international, but I feel when I see a post from yours, I watch it, I look at it, because I know it's real and it's local, and you're now a Parkland resident, you're from, been here for a while. But I think people, when they see it, like just announced by your thing, somebody will say that in their post. It's genuine, it's real, it's concrete, it's tangible. And I think that's what people are drawn to your articles, because I feel they're close. You're here in the city, and now you live in Parkland. So, as you said, it's more of a job. But why should somebody rely on your publications? Because people, whatever views they have, they're still looking at your.
I think people should question everything. I think they should question my stuff. I think they should question the Sun Sentinel. And I'll give you an example. Just the day after the shooting, okay, first of all, I rely on my sources. Everything I get is from my sources. And after doing this for like almost 8 years, I have just tons of sources that give me things. And you can never, to build up sources, that's the gold in what I do. So the day after the shooting, I started getting emails from people. They said, Scott Peterson was hiding, and the BSO were hiding behind their cars during the shooting. And I said, I couldn't believe it. Sure. And I had no proof to write anything about it. I couldn't just write it. I couldn't speculate. And I would freak out people if I wrote that. It would be very, very unethical just to write that based on these were probably people that were in the PD that were giving me these leads, and I don't know. I don't disclose who they are, but they said what they saw, and I just could not prove it. I went to My sources at BSO, they weren't giving any information where Scott Peterson was. The Sun Sentinel reported 2 days later that Scott Peterson was across campus doing something else, so he couldn't get there in time. That was the first article from the Sun Sentinel until they found out that he was hiding behind a pole the whole time. So I had to sit on this information, and they were yelling at me, my sources, saying, listen, I got it. He was hiding. They were hiding behind cars. They weren't doing anything. When are you going to put something out about this? And it was like, I can't. My hands are tied. I can't put something out like this. So, until you have all the facts, and you have to question everything, I mean, I can't put things out like that. And I knew the killer's name right away. Whenever the shootings were going on, and I knew about this from the police radio. Somebody contacted me because he was listening to the police radio live, and I was typing and telling people what was going on live online. I knew the killer's name. Could not put the killer's name out. I mean, what if I was wrong? I mean, that would just, you have to watch out.
Or if he's underage.
The bigger you get, you have to watch out for libel and stuff like that. So I couldn't even put that out then.
No, I definitely agree with you. You don't want to put out something that you're not 100%
So that's why I'm getting
confirmed.
back. Question everything. Question every publication.
That's good. How do you develop your story ideas and your themes of your stories?
Like I said, I have a lot of sources that give me story ideas. I get story ideas all the time, tons of stuff that I have to refuse stuff. Luckily, I'm always keep two writers. Right now I have a new writer from an MSD graduate, and I have another girl. She was a former teacher at Boyd Anderson High School. So I have two other writers and another part-time writer and a food critic writing for me now. So I pass out these ideas to them, and they take what they want to do and who they want to interview, and then I do the rest. I do usually the stories that have to be done right away because I can write them up fast. Usually police stories, robberies, things like that. So, and they do all the feature stories.
Where do you see the future of the news industry? Will local online publications like yourself, where users will only seek information digitally through social media, take over the multimedia's mainstream?
Well, we've seen it. I have a lot of friends at the Sun Sentinel, and there's been a lot of layoffs, and sadly, people are looking for news online, and they really hurt themselves. The Sun Sentinel, and it's helped me, God. They put a paywall on their site. You can, unless you subscribe, you can only get like 10 articles free, and they're excellent writers there. But sadly, people are just reading things online, and they're going immediately online for information. So
people get the newspaper now. I get it like the Sunday paper on my. They just throw it on there, and I just throw it in the trash. I don't
it's
even.
Too
maybe
much.
I'll look real quickly through to see if something important, but it is definitely.
Yeah. So and that's what's so great about doing online. I can put an article out right away, just right away within an hour after getting the information. It's quick and it's easy, and so everything's going digitally.
Everything is. I think we're here doing all this social media stuff. That's why I like bringing on somebody like you and what we're trying to create here. So to find out more information, they go to Parkland Talk, Tamarac Talk, Coral Springs Talk. Yep. Anything else? That's the way to get.
Well, you get my news from they're parklandtalk.com, tamaractalk.com, coralspringstalk.com. You find us on the Facebook pages. Usually I put the articles out. We're on Twitter, Instagram. But and if you have any ideas for stories, I'd like to feature stories about people. Give me a call, send me an email.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
And I also want to say, please tune in for our next episode next week, and also check out our we do Ask Michael Monday. We do Citron Saturdays, where we highlight a local business in the Parkland, South Florida area, and then we have our vlog where. We do a video following my life every day as a crazy real estate agent running around Parkland.
Do people watch that?
People watch it. I get a lot of people that actually note that the most of what because there's a lot of agents in the business, or a lot of people aspiring.
I would love
agents.
to see pictures of like the messiest house you've
ever
seen. That's the kind of stories I'd like to hear.
But then somebody's house will be messy that I'm showing online. They're going to be like, "You're fired." But no, we trust me. We're the vlog is more, our experiences every day of just going out and doing inspections, appraisals, meeting, somebody and maybe has a messy house, and we'll come in there and help them clean it. But there's all kinds of crazy.
Hire this guy.
Oh, thank you.
Hire this. If he helps stage a home and clean it, hire this guy.
I'll tell you one story as we're finalizing. Years ago, I had a listing in Parkland. It was in Pine Tree Estates. And the seller was out of town, and they had 3 dogs, big dogs. And the owner was out of town. She had a neighbor across the street handling it, and it was a second showing, and these buyers were 100% wanting to buy the house. So something said to me, the intuition, I better get there maybe 30, 40 minutes earlier. So I get there 34 minutes earlier, and as soon as I open the door, it stinks of poop. And I'm like, oh no. My God. And I walked in there, and these are 3 big, there was a German Shepherd, a Greyhound.
Horses.
They had big dogs. It's in Pine Tree, so they can have lots of space. So long story short, I'm just like, what do I do? And I'm like, called the owner, can't get in touch with her, called the neighbor who's supposed to be taking care of it. Nope. What I did, just picked it all up, put it together, cleaned it. I was going in the bathrooms, finding any spray. I'm lighting candles. I'm opening the windows. And the people walk in the house. And they were so in love with the house. I think it was, they would have smelled it if I didn't do that stuff. But they were so engaged. And I'm sitting there and I have all the stuff in the side of the house, the big trash bags and everything. And they're like, we need to look around the whole house. Like, whoa, hold on. Stay in here first. Let me get the whole house.
Were there any carpets?
There were carpets. I was scrubbing everything.
Oh, God.
In the end, the buyers bought the house. I called the seller right afterwards, and the dogs were there for 3 days. They hadn't eaten. So I was a little problematic. I had to go get the neighbor who didn't come back to help them and take care of the dogs while she was gone. So I had to calm her down. The dogs were okay. They ate plenty, I'm sure. And it just worked out being well, but that's just something we do. I've been to a house where the movers move people out, and there's stuff everywhere, and the people are moving in the next morning. And what do? I called up my girlfriend. I said, "Come over. I need you to help. We're going to mop the floors." I rolled up my sleeves. It was like a Friday night. I remember I did a posting. I said, "What is your realtor doing on a Friday night?" Here's what I'm doing. So crazy things like that, but. All in all,
dedication.
We're dedicated. We're here. We'd love to earn your business and trust. If you're looking to make a move in or out of the city or anywhere in South Florida, we have an amazing team. We do these things to keep you informed, to get you connected with other items of value, which I think you could definitely go to these websites to get local information, especially at a time like this. We definitely want to do that. So I hope everybody has a great evening. Spend it with your family, and I'll see you next week for another episode of Ask Michael Monday. Thank you so much.